Hey, what's good, y'all? It's your boy Trist, bringing you Island Bliss all the way from Honduras. Yes, it is my last couple of hours here on the island of Roatan in Honduras. And listen, I tried recording. I haven't recorded a video in a long time, and I tried recording earlier when I first came here, only for to get caught up, just enjoying vacation, taking part in the mission trip that I came out here for, and living life. Taking in the sights, seeing how beautiful it is. It's been an amazing experience. We went over there to Maya Key a few days ago. I got to snorkel for the first time. This is actually my first flight trip, international trip, in nearly 2 decades, because I let a fear of heights just, keep me from doing more. But now I want to travel. Look at this, look at the water. Now I want to live by the water. Only thing I worry about is climate change and the negative effects of living by the water. So, something to look into, but I definitely want to travel more. I definitely want to come back here next year for the next mission trip to Honduras. So, gotta start saving for that. But I just want to talk to you guys real quick. Just some things that I've, thought about, learned, observed, again, on a mission trip. Because in general, even though I grew up Christian, Sunday Adventist, I grew up, in the lifestyle of the Grand Commission of spreading the gospel to all the world and everything like that. I'm not the most enthusiastic about, mission trips, missionaries. I won't make the easy joke there to make. But, yeah, it's, there's a deep colonizing history to it. It still goes on to this day. A lot of Christian evangelizing and the spreading of the gospel and the increasing of, religious numbers happens to be in foreign countries. And I was just recently watching the Date Over Dogma podcast with Dan Beachman and Dan McClellan, talking about, at least them, and in the comments, talking about, one of the reasons, like, evangelism is a very difficult job to do. A lot of people who are just living their lives non-religiously or in their own faiths are not going to convert. So most of the people you are actually converting are already Christians of a different faith, and you are mostly convincing them that their version of Christianity is wrong and your version of Christianity is the right one. And I would feel like that's what makes religions like Mormonism, like Jehovah's Witnesses, like Seventh-day Adventism so effective at international ministries, because a lot of the idea of that is that they are the ones that have, the right interpretation of the gospel. Mormons got their Book of Mormon, their extra, basically their version of a spirit of prophecy. I guess Jehovah's Witnesses with their Watchtower, that's their version of a spirit of prophecy of interpreting end times events. And for Adventists, it's Ellen G. White, her Spirit of Prophecy, Desire of Ages, Great Controversy, all that, for interpretation of end time events, and pointing to the Catholic Church as the one that's deceived all the other, Christian sects into believing in a false Sabbath, Sunday instead of, the original Jewish Sabbath of a Saturday, and thus is leading them all to a path of destruction for not fully, properly obeying all the commandments of God. Which, that's where the fundamentalism and the debate rhetoric comes down to, where, I don't know, like, again, when you're not reading fundamentally, when you're reading, literarily, reading in between the lines, you can see when Jesus is saying for all the Christians who have cast out demons in his name, who have, preached the gospel in his name, who've done all these amazing things as Christians, when he's saying depart from me, you know me not, it's because not ministering to least of these, not looking out for the poor, not taking care of those who are needed, clothing the naked, taking care of the sick, feeding the hungry, looking after the widow and the orphan. So much of the focus is just on condemning sin and on letting you know, unless you develop a character that is like God's and sinless, you can't make it to heaven. And of course, that's a large part of the rhetoric of the sermons. I will say the thing I have enjoyed, especially in a lot of missionary work, was, especially in relation with certain people I've met, like Omar, I'll call them the wedding planners. I shouldn't be using names, but all love to my man's. Been hanging out with him. He's a good guy. He spoke with some missionaries who live basically next door. I'm staying at the mission house. I came to sing and everything like that. I gotta learn Spanish for next time I come, so I could understand people more, so I could sing songs that more people understand. They were blessed, but still, it'd be nice to actually interact deeper than just with people who, are both, bilingual, So that's again on me. But yeah, he's somebody that, they met, and they met him. He was living under a tree. He would drink, do drugs, and today he's 26 days sober. Now, again, for him, he's like, rehab, he didn't want to do it that way. He's like, with rehab, there's a lot of anxiety that, you were in this place getting off of drugs, and so there's anxiety coming back out, being exposed to all these things. Well, his kind of rehab was he was put in charge of looking after the tent and everything like that, helping take care of it, maintain the site where the church meetings, the tent meetings were happening. And so the times he's isolated there, sleeping there instead of under a tree and everything like that, that's kind of a rehab for him, where he's also still able to go move around. Like just yesterday, he took me on a tour of the West Bay and the West End, and he's a good guy, and I can see that being helpful for him. It's just when we prescribe these things as, again, and it's presumptively prescribe these things where what might work for one person, what might have been just what was needed for them, might not be what works for everyone. And I can't say that's something I would caution to them, because again, their mission, their version of the Grand Commission, spread the gospel, is conversion. And there are people that wanted to be baptized that they didn't baptize yet because they're still not married, and so they don't want to baptize them while cohabiting, quote unquote, while living in sin, and kind of sanction that, and basically want them to basically get their money together, be able to go to the courthouse, get married. I think even in August they were talking recently about finding out how in August, I guess, weddings are free. So I guess you might see a bunch of baptisms out here after that if a bunch of people run down to the courthouse to get married, but also with a condition of those relationships. And they're also encouraging people to leave those relationships if those people don't love them enough to marry them. But also, is marriage necessary for everyone? Like, we're trying to do that in America now with all the laws we're trying to change, and that's going to trap a bunch of people in unhappy situations. Would that do the same thing here? So the church is going to have the way it does things. So I pray for everyone that we've met, that I've met, and what I most want to see is more community. And there's a lot of community here. There's a lot of love, and there's already community in places like this, where even if everyone around you is poor and you're in the struggle together, you need each other more than like in America, where it really is everyone for themselves. And not to say again, there isn't crime and other stuff out here. There definitely is, but There's also, you know, people talk about, especially my man that I was talking about, Omar, talks a lot about the humbleness of a lot of people out here. He also talks about the people that, don't want to see him doing well, that don't like the fact that he's, sober now and are way, like, they can't just, count on him being somebody they can step over. But, there's also people that are encouraging and glad to see him be clear eyed, clear minded. And speaking of clear eyed and clear minded, as I go back, as somebody who wants to get, more into massage therapy, go to school for that, I myself want to be more. Yeah, I was gonna say I need to be shown more of the water, because why am I even out here on the balcony if I'm not positioning myself so you can see just how beautiful it is? Give me a second to turn around. Let me stop being so greedy with that. Yeah, that's better. But yeah, I just. One thing I do love or like about Adventism is the concept of medical missionary work and, you know, learning to be healthy, to heal. Like, I feel like if they went really far with the idea of herbs and all that, theirs is more so on the idea of the Garden of Eden and how we had such long lifespans before, Noah's flood and man being made to eat meat, and the story of Daniel and the three Hebrew boys, how they ate their, fruits, vegetables, legumes, all that, and were, you know, much more intelligent, much healthier looking than the people who were allowed to even eat the king's meat. So a lot of the medical missionary idea of like veganism, vegetarianism comes from that, comes from a lot of the movements that were happening around the time before the Great Disappointment, when like the Millerite movement and all that started. Maybe when no, I'm not gonna edit. Like, I could edit this and put some of those things in, but it's about time I put out a new video. If I want to go into a deeper dive of my thoughts on these things, maybe I'll make another video. Maybe one that doesn't have this beautiful background, since, again, I'm leaving today. But I'll just upload this video as is. And, hey, I'm just saying, being out here made me, and also, like, attending to certain people who have sickness and ailments out here. Like, there's one girl who was, like, in the hospital a few times for a few days with great pain because of parasites. And just thinking about, not just out here, but also even back home in New York, back in even upstate New York, people with different medical problems. A lot of us are going to be living on. I take all kinds of medicines and everything like that, but as I want to get in massage therapy to help people alleviate their pains, not to, again, play doctor or anything like that, but just learn for myself so I could help teach others different little things to, like, work on for their own health, and also learn that for myself so I could lose some of the weight, deal with my own heart issues, my pre-diabetic issues, all these other things, and, just be someone who can better promote health, and in doing so also better promote community, loving kindness. I think the real grand commission is making disciples, but it's not necessarily conversion. It's not expecting people to have to believe what you believe, but more so ministering, teaching, educating, and them taking that and doing that with others, and that creating a community and a society that is better informed, healthier, more caring, more loving, more responsible for each other, like how community is supposed to be. So I'm just saying all this to say I'm happy to come back. It's beautiful here. Happy to come back. I'm happy. I feel like this has made a difference for me in a multitude of ways. I hope I can continue to, take these lessons and grow with them, and also be wary of the places where I don't want to lean too far into the conversion rate of things, but also I don't want to lean too far in the other direction of not seeing the value of faith and seeing the value of, in the same way I can't convert these people into not believe in what they believe, I can still utilize being in the space to teach myself, to learn things, like medical missionary work, like, being connected to different communities, like hopefully again learning other languages. We'll see how that goes. Wish me luck. Gotta download Duolingo, step that up. But yeah, if you want to see more, if you want to support these efforts, I'll put the Cash App link in the bio if you want to help support. I was not balling enough to pay for this trip myself. My mom's paid for this trip after the wedding planner family invited me out here to sing for the mission trips after hearing me sing on the prayer line. So don't think I'm balling and just out here all over the place on Carmen, San Diego. Like I said, my first international flight in basically 2 decades. But yes, I'm going back. I won't say broke. We don't speak words to manifest our reality, but let's just say pockets way too light. So if you want to help support there, like I said, Cash App will be in the description. If you have ideas for future videos, comment. If you like this video, if you don't like, comment, dislike or like, share, and I'll be seeing you guys soon. I'll be back in the States soon, and hopefully you'll see more of me soon on here as well, instead of another year-long break. Alright, y'all be good. Peace, love, and bliss from your boy, Trist. Peace.